only leaves, the final phase of Ashi Waza is to build the one coming forward. And depending on what throw you're working with, you may start with the forward application and work your way to the backward and the sideways and the roundy round forms. But basically, you want to go through all phases with each throw. In Daiashi, in this basic foot sweep, we had the one where we went backward, then we had the one where we went sideways, and we had the one where we turned around. Now we're going back to the one where most people actually start, which is a little bit crazy, which is the one where he's coming forward. So he's taking a foot down, boom, right there. And as he steps down, I want to be ready to intercept it. Now, most people just sort of dash the foot out from under the fella. I'm watching his foot, it's coming. I'm watching his foot, it's coming, and boom! They just sort of knock it out from under him. And that's, you may or may not have success with that. Enjoy. Personally, what I've found most useful for this is that I get into phase with him, into step with him, and I make a little change just as my foot lands, right here. I make a change in this hip, boom, by opening. But basically, I don't change the timing, and I don't change the placement, I don't change anything else. I just open the hip, and then I'm waiting for the next connection point. And as that connection point comes through, whew, you have something that's the Daiashi, but it's also very much like a Kosoto. It's very similar to Kosoto. So if you did this in a more exaggerated form, Kosoto, it'd be right here. Kosoto is a good substitute for this. But a more subtle one that just opens and sweeps, and you're actually going to sweep right past yourself, right here, is a very nice form. Any kind of form of the forward step, you don't really care. And that also brings us into Koji, which is the same throw done from the inside. So if you think about it, you have the man and you're sweeping his foot as he goes backward. Now you're sweeping the foot as it comes forward. From the opposite side, counter side, it's naturally Kochi, but from the mirror side, as he steps forward, whew, it's a Daiashi action, or a Kochi, Kosoto action. All of those forward stepping actions, forward sweeping actions, serve very similar purpose. And you want to build them all so that you're hooked up with the man, and wherever he decides to move, whatever his next step is, boom, it's sideways. As it's sideways, you're directly there with it. You've hooked up with the man, his next step comes backward, boom, right off the bat. You've hooked up with the man, his next step goes forward, boom, you're with it. And you want to be primed and ready to go with whatever his initial movement is. You don't want to be standing around with it. Now, when you actually apply, the strategy of applying is that really when you hook up with a fella, you might just go ahead and step sideways and just kind of look at what he does and don't react. And then there's movement going on and he's attacking you and doing whatever he's doing. And then somewhere in there you take that another sideways step and you kind of look at what he does and he recovers, he gets cool. But you send him this signal of, well, sometimes I just take this sideways step and nothing ever happens. So his subconscious is reading that going, oh, okay, that's cool, and we're having our fight and trying to do stuff to each other and what have you. The sideways step comes again. And again, his body just bounces and reacts. And you kind of feed him that relationship, whether it's a side step or a coiled step or a back step or whichever relationship you prefer, a few times, maybe once, maybe twice, and all you're really doing is feeding him that and then looking at how his body responds. Feed it to him, watch how the body responds. Feed it to him, whoop! And now you're licking your chops. You're ready to go. You're waiting for it. You know how his body's going to respond because you've watched it a time or two. And you've not only watched it a time or two, so you really, you've been out hunting and you know exactly where that bird likes to nest. But you've watched it a time or two, and you've sent him the signal that it is meaningless when this beginning happens. That you do it and then nothing ever comes. because you didn't pull the trigger. Because you just watched it and tracked him. You watched it and tracked him. You watched it, boom! And you have it dead to rights. Your probabilities go way up if you play your Ashi Waza or any of your throwing this way. So you feed him the signal. You feed him the get ready signal, and then you don't execute. You hang out and you just sort of observe how he responds. You feed him the kazushi, then you don't execute. Just observe how he responds. And then the third time you do it, you're already in and gone, and he's still catching up, laying down on the ground saying, where was that from? You build all these lines of not only size of step, but directionality, and then you apply them to each of your different throws. So if you then were to say, okay, I'm done with my Ashi Waza, we've not only done the Kochi, but we've also done the Ochi, we've also covered propping, we've also covered stopping, we've also covered reaping from behind, reaping around the body, all the Ashi Waza get in here. We've also covered coming into the inside and picking it up like for the classical forms of Uchimata. Basically, you build your entire Ashi Waza game, and you build it in such a way you can do it in each direction, in each size of step, and in each configuration of direction, at least for all the small techniques. Then you take the same basic methodology and apply it to your Teiwaza, for your shoulder throws, for your big Kataguruma throws, for your Tayatoshis, Sode Surikomis, for the whole range, and all your hip throws, all your hip actions. You do them forward, you do them backward, you do them sideways, you do them roundy round. You do them big, from big stepping actions. You do them small, from little shifting actions. You build each component into each phase, and then no matter how you're moving, you're ready to go. You don't really care. Now, do you need to use all that? Is that what you need for a modern competitive game? No, it's not what you need. Modern competitive judo is a much narrower focus than that. It's a tight focus saying 2 or 3 elements, work all the basic possibilities, and these narrow possibilities, you channel everything into that set of narrow possibilities, then you just do that, and you get highly efficient at a much narrower range, because the offense-defense issues dealing with somebody in your weight class are different than dealing with people of all different shapes and sizes. So, this is really a step back in training to a more archaic form or an anachronistic form back before there were weight classes. And it's, in my mind, more applicable to the real world. Because if you're going to actually have to use judo under duress in a real world on the real concrete with real people who are trying to tear your real head off, then you don't have a clue if they're going to be 6'4", or if they're going to be 4'3", or if they're going to be really fast little fellas, or they're going to be big monster giants, or they're going to be shaped like a bowling ball. You don't really know until the guy's on you and you're in contact with him what the hell you're dealing with, and you have to be capable or facile at whatever you're presented with, which is why in the original judo there was a large curriculum, 40 throws in the Gokyu. Because you had to be capable of operating under this wide variety of circumstances in this wide variety of directions under duress from all sorts of people. As the game narrows and it becomes a tighter game, people can become more Takui Waza experts. You don't need all that. You only need a few basic deals. You need one main throw, one minor throw, maybe a couple of minor throws, a couple of conditions on the ground, a good finishing choke, a good finishing arm bar. And that's it. Very narrow. Get really great at just that narrow body, and you can go out and compete, win trophies, do well. A few extras like figuring out how to work with your hands and operate in terms of grip fighting, but basically it's a narrower game. When you broaden it back out to more the old-fashioned sense of it, then you're building judo that operates in your wider spectrum of your life. Which is what this is about. So, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you apply it to your judo. And I hope it all gets really good for you. Thank you.